Something vast had come to the village, and everyone wanted to understand it. The blind men and the elephant. 6 blind men lived in a village in India, and none of them had ever encountered an elephant. They were not fools. Each was considered wise in his own way. One understood weather by the feel of wind, another could identify any bird by its song, a third knew every path in the district by the texture of the ground beneath his feet. They were men who knew the world through touch and sound and smell, and they knew it well. But an elephant was something none of them had experienced, and when word came that one had arrived in the village, they were intensely curious. Each touched the truth, but each touched only a piece. "Let us go and examine it," said the first. "We can learn what an elephant is by touch, since that is how we learn everything." The others agreed, and the 6 men were led to where the great animal stood, patient and enormous, in the village square. But an elephant is very large, and each man was positioned at a different place. The first pressed his hands against the animal's side, vast, warm, flat, immovable. The second grasped a tusk, smooth, hard, pointed. The third seized the trunk, muscular, flexible, alive with movement. The fourth embraced a leg, thick, rough, round as a pillar. The fifth felt an ear, thin, wide, rippling at his touch. The sixth caught the tail, narrow, hairy, hanging like a rope. Each explored his portion carefully. Each built his understanding with the thoroughness of a man who trusts his hands completely. And each was certain he now knew what an elephant was. The argument of the certain. They were led away and asked to describe their findings. The 6 wise men began to speak, and immediately disagreed. "An elephant," announced the first, "is like a great wall. Broad, solid, immovable." "Nonsense," said the second. "An elephant is like a spear, smooth, hard, and dangerous." "You are both wrong," said the third. "An elephant is like a snake. It moves and twists." Each was certain he was right, and certain all others were wrong. The fourth shook his head. "An elephant is like a tree trunk, thick, round, and rooted to the ground." "No," said the fifth. "An elephant is like a fan, thin and wide, waving back and forth." "You are all fools," declared the sixth. "An elephant is like a rope, narrow, hanging, simple." The argument grew heated. Each man had touched the elephant himself. Each knew what he had felt with his own hands. How could the others describe something so completely different? Were they lying? Were they incompetent? Were they simply unable to perceive what was obvious? The 6 wise men became 6 angry men. They shouted. They accused. They insisted, with growing fury, that everyone else was wrong and only they possessed the truth. The curiosity that had brought them together became the certainty that drove them apart. The whole truth. A wise man passing through the village heard the argument and stopped. He had seen the elephant. He knew what the blind men could not. The creature contained all of their descriptions and more. "You are all right," he said, "and all wrong, because the truth is larger than your piece of it. Each of you is right," he said, "but each of you is also wrong." The blind men fell silent, confused. How could everyone be both right and wrong? "You," the wise man said to the first, "touched the elephant's side. It truly is like a wall. And you touched a tusk. It truly is like a spear. And the trunk truly is like a snake, and the leg like a tree, and the ear like a fan, and the tail like a rope. Each of you has accurately described the part you touched." The blind men nodded slowly. "But the elephant is not just a wall or a spear or a snake or a tree or a fan or a rope. The elephant is all of these things together. And more that none of you touched. You each experienced part of the truth, but you each mistook your part for the whole. When you argued, you were not arguing about different animals. You were arguing about different pieces of the same animal." The 6 men stood very still. They had not been lying to each other. They had not been incompetent. They had simply touched different parts of something too large for any one of them to experience completely. The elephant that contains all things. The blind men returned home with a new understanding, not just of elephants but of truth itself. They realized that in many arguments throughout their lives, they had perhaps touched different parts of the same reality and insisted that their part was the whole. Wall and spear and snake and tree and fan and rope. All true, all incomplete. The parable spread from that village across India and eventually across the world. Buddhists used it to teach that sectarian disagreements arise from partial perspectives. Jains used it to illustrate Anekantavada, the principle that reality is complex and can be perceived validly from many points of view. Sufis used it to suggest that all spiritual traditions touch different aspects of the same divine truth. Each tradition found its own meaning in the story, which was itself a demonstration of the story's point. The elephant is still out there, in science, in politics, in philosophy, in every conversation where two people describe the same situation differently and cannot understand how the other could possibly see it that way. The story does not say that all views are equally valid or that facts do not exist. The elephant is real, not imagined. But it says that our individual experience is limited, that our certainties deserve humility, and that the person who seems completely wrong may simply be touching a part of the truth we have not reached. The blind men became wise not when they learned what an elephant was, but when they learned the limits of their own perception.